Hi, I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of today's newsletter is going to be relationships, regret, loss, and rejection. Well, this email is a doozy. You may, as I'm going through it, you may find yourself face palming at some of the things that this poor guy has done. But for me, what's interesting is it's like this guy has kind of lived the life that I was once on the path to living. If you've read my book, 3% Man, obviously when I was younger, I was, in essence, my personal life, I was living it according to the expectations of other people, and I wasn't really listening to what felt right for me. And so this, I think, is a great email for anybody that's watching this, not only for yourself, but for people that you know that are making choices in their personal life to please other people, and you can see that is making them miserable. So this guy's got a couple kids now at this particular point, but I don't want to spoil it. I'm going to go through it, each part point by point, because the idea is you want to learn from this guy's mistakes. You can see and you can feel the pain that his choices have caused him, and he's really struggling and really agonizing from it. And the benefit to the rest of us that are watching it that may not be in this exact situation, but we might in the future, or we might encounter people that we know that are in this situation, and we can give them some wisdom based on it. Because the idea is you want to learn from other people's mistakes so you don't make the same ones yourself. Why reinvent the wheel? So I got a short quote that I wrote, and then we'll go through this guy's email. And the quote says, "You will never be happy if you live your life according to the expectations of others. When you are so worried about what others think about you that you make decisions to please them instead of doing what makes you happy, you will only make yourself miserable and resentful. You can only be at your best personally when you are happy and in a peaceful and relaxed state. Cultivate a personal and professional life that brings you peace, happiness, joy, and that facilitates your personal growth." With that said, again, most of what we're going to be talking is the kind of things that are in 3% Man, my first book, that you can obviously read for free at understandingrelationships.com. All you got to do is subscribe to the email newsletter. So again, I like to reiterate this every few videos. The idea is these videos are based upon the assumption that you, the viewer, actually knows at least the baseline fundamentals or what's in the book. And so we're going to take what's in the book and say, how does the wisdom in the book and the principles in the book apply to this particular guy's situation, which is when I really started learning about this stuff in earnest in my late 20s, early 30s, I couldn't believe how many people had done the same thing. So many people marry people they're not in love with. A lot of women marry guys that they're not in love with, and they just kind of go along with it. And so what are the consequences of that? Well, we're about to see right now. So this can save you or somebody you care about a lot of pain and a heartbreak if you learn the lessons that this guy is learning the hard way. Twice. Just wait. You'll see. So he says, "Hi, Coach. I came across your videos while I was soul searching for guidance through Google. I enjoyed watching your videos and suggestions provided. I am from Singapore, and the culture is a bit different and rather conservative. Anyways, my situation is rather complex, and I hope I am able to explain myself clearly. I got married in 2006, and I was 31. I hooked up with her in 2002 after a breakup from an 8-year relationship. I got married because my parents pestering me to settle down, which is never a good reason to get married. And also I know she will be a great wife and mother to my kids." Well, that's great that she'd be a great wife and mother, but what about a teammate for you? Because at the end of the day, your kids aren't going to be little. You got maybe 2 decades, 2.5 decades before they're completely on their own and done with college and got their first few years of working for themselves under their belt, and they got a place to stay. They're paying their own rent. They're paying their own car payment or car lease, whatever it happens to be. Meaning they're a fully self-sustaining, self-reliant adult. And so what happens when the kids leave home? I mean, this is a big problem for a lot of people. I know in my own family, when my brother and I were old enough, my mother didn't really have to do much mothering and taking care of us anymore. She was kind of like, what the hell do I do with my life? And if you're with somebody you don't really genuinely enjoy hanging out with, and now the real reason why you were together, like in this case, he was focused on the kids and how they would be good parents together. Now they'll be stuck with each other when they get older. And who wants to be in a relationship with somebody that you don't jive with? It's like having somebody as your closest friend who you can't stand and you don't want to be around with. I mean, it just kind of doesn't make any sense. But millions and millions and millions of people do it all over the world. A few months before we got married, I feel neglected and I lost the spark in the relationship. I did not want to proceed with the marriage, but I was talked to by the family, and eventually I got married. So the family pressured you to do what they thought was best, which more than likely it was the same thing that they all experienced. They all got pressured into it, and you just got to do the right thing, even though it might make you miserable. He says, after marriage, I tried to be positive. We had our first kid in 2008 and our second one in 2011. But throughout this period, she was not intimate or affectionate in the relationship. I spurred on and tried to be positive. So he's basically in a relationship with a wife that has no interest in having sex with him. She got the couple babies she wanted, and that was it. If I could count on all the people I've encountered in my life, friends or clients I've done coaching sessions with, that was their reality. It's sad, man. Guys get married, the marriage isn't really that great. They have a few kids, and then the wife just cuts off access to the pussy. Nothing for you. That sounds like fun. Then you're just roommates with somebody that you're no longer intimate with, and you don't generally like hanging out. From 2011 to 2013, I had countless rejections from my own wife when I wanted to be intimate. Well, obviously, you didn't understand how attraction works, which you would have learned in 3% Man, but that was before you found my work. She either brushed my hands away or pushed me away. I probably had sex less than 10 times in a year. I eventually slowed down my advances with being intimate with her, and by 2016, I had totally lost interest in looking at her naked or even wanting to have sex with her. At the last quarter of 2016, I started having an affair. I felt guilty and I informed my wife about it. She was distraught. I had a hard time with my family. We went for counseling and then had a divorce by the end of 2017. So you're thinking, hey, you know what? That sucks. That was difficult, but eventually you got divorced and you moved on. I mean, it takes some guts, especially to get divorced when your family's pressuring you, probably trying to get you to validate their own life choices, because that's probably what they all did. And in order to validate their life choices, especially ones that have been going on for decades, if they can get everybody around them to do the same things, they feel like they did the right thing. As the saying goes, misery loves company. And if miserable people are successful at making other people around them miserable, then they're like, hey, this is normal. This is the way it's supposed to be. Got to be realistic. Starting in 2018, I was balancing my happiness and my personal life. I got access to the kids and visited them frequently. Notice how I got access to my kids. It's like court systems are just fucked up. Probably even in Singapore. I mean, that just sucks. It's like the men are just behind the eight ball in at least so many states in the United States that, a lot of these laws in some of these states, it's like the woman has all the power and the guy's got no power at all. And that's, the way I look at it, is like, why involve the government in your relationship? If it doesn't work out and you're in a state where the government's going to come down on the side of the woman, it's like, good luck trying to be a part of your kid's life. He says, I then met a woman. She was much younger than me. I was 43 and she was 26. I told her about my situation and she accepted me for who I am. We stayed together and were very passionate and intimate with each other. She was very understanding and gave me space to spend time with my kids. You're thinking, at this point, you're like, wow, this is great, man. That guy really turned his life around, right? It gets better. So in 2019, I felt sorry for my kids. I sympathized with them for being in a broken family. At the same time, my family saw my relationship with my ex-wife and kids were better. I brought my ex-wife and my kids to my parents' place during the weekends. Things were better. But I didn't develop any love or interest with my ex-wife. My parents started pleading and begging me to remarry my ex-wife for the sake of the kids. I am not denying I felt for the kids too. So you got to ask yourself, if you don't want to be with your wife, and the only reason you're thinking about being with her or why you were with her in the first place, and now when you're actually thinking about being in a relationship with her again, if you do get back together with your ex-wife now and you think you're saving the kids a broken family, all you're really doing is showing your kids a dysfunctional, fucked up household where there's no love and there's no sex and there's no intimacy. How is that good for the children? Do you want your children to grow up and get in the same kind of loveless, sexless marriage? Does that serve them? Is that something that's going to make you feel proud as a parent? Or do you think it's much better to be in a relationship with somebody that you love, you have intimacy with, that your teammates, your goals, your values are aligned, and the kids get to see at least mom and dad, or at least dad and dad's new girlfriend in a happy relationship, despite no matter what happens with their mother? The best thing you can do is present the best example for your children to emulate, because your kids are going to follow your example. And if you're just giving them a dysfunctional relationship, well, you shouldn't be surprised when they grow up and they make the same mistakes. And that's typically what happens. I don't see how that's saving the kids or helping the kids. It's just fucking them up and ruining their lives. He says, it was such a dilemma for me. I told the girl about my situation. There were a few occasions I felt guilty being with her. As she was younger, I told her that she could find someone better than me. Yeah, if you don't perceive yourself as bringing much to the table, I mean, that kind of a thought sounds totally normal. That's not the sense of a guy who holds himself in high regard. And if you don't think very highly of yourself, how are you going to expect your girlfriend or anybody else for that matter to think highly of you? Something to think about, dude. But deep down inside me, I want to be with her. I also told her about this situation with my family and what my parents requested. It was devastating for her, but we decided to stay on as long as possible. So it sounds like you guys continued dating even though you were talking about potentially getting back together with your ex-wife for the sake of the kids. By the end of 2019, and the other thing, what is actually helping attraction-wise with your girlfriend is you're kind of the unattainable man. On some level, she's going to be trying to think, what can I do to get him to stay with me and not go back to his ex-wife who made him miserable anyways? He says, by the end of 2019, I remarried the ex-wife. Come on, man. Both families were happy and the kids were happy. Well, what about you, dude? What about your wife? Was she really happy? The remarriage was not because I want to rekindle the love of my ex-wife, but more for my kids and parents. How's that working out, buddy? How you feel? And ever since I remarried, I have yet to touch her or have sex with my wife. That's brutal, dude. I don't feel the urge and I feel awkward being close to her. My wife has been trying to be intimate with me. Isn't it interesting how that totally flipped? You don't want to touch your wife and now she's trying to be intimate with you, where she rejected you for years and years. But I am totally shut. I lost it. I don't even want to hug her when we are sleeping. I don't feel arousal or the need to be intimate with my wife. Regarding the girl, I continued seeing her a few times a week after the marriage. I know it is wrong. So at the end of the day, you're trying to get your parents off your back and you're trying to keep the girl that you really care about in your life, and yet you're married to your ex-wife who you don't really want to be with. How does that serve you or anybody? Everything in your life is a lie, dude. But the frequency gets lesser because of the COVID-19 situation. I cannot stay over with her and just went over to her apartment for our physical moments. And eventually, the country went into lockdown, and I cannot visit her. We continued communicating with each other, but no physical contact. But I guess that was the final straw for her. We broke up in the beginning of June. I am feeling devastated. So you got obviously distance between the two of you, and now you're no longer physically getting together. You're living with your wife and your kids, but yet you're talking with her. And so, from her perspective, at that point, she no longer has a physical relationship. She has an emotional affair with a married guy, obviously, you in this case. He says, it's been a crazy journey in my life. I learned a few things. I love my wife because she's the mother of my kids. Ever since I got my second kid, I can't relate much with my wife. And the reason why I got married with her in the first time was pretty much because I knew she would make a good mother and wife. Well, a wife who doesn't want to have sex with you, I wouldn't call that being a good wife. Our character and interest differs a lot. I regretted marrying again. I totally regret it. Well, that was as predictable as the sun coming up in the east and setting in the west, dude. I mean, you had already tried that for what, the better part of a decade, and then you went back to the same strategy that made you miserable, and now you're miserable again, so you shouldn't be surprised. I reflected and learned that the girl that I lost did a lot for me. She cared and loved me unconditionally. We were well connected emotionally and physically. We shared a lot of common interests, and I wish I could be back with her again. I totally miss her, and I love her a lot. I went crazy over her, and now she is rejecting me. I am at the lowest point in my life. I want to divorce my wife again. I feel that it is not healthy for me being in this marriage. Ding, ding, we have a winner. I really want to end my marriage, but I am worried my aging parents will be upset. Well, at the end of the day, your parents are going to die, you're going to die, your wife's going to die, this girlfriend's going to die, your kids are going to die eventually. The question is, how do you want to spend your life? Do you want to be miserable so you don't upset your aging parents? Or do you want to be happy so you can be a good boyfriend, good husband to your girlfriend or some future woman and be a good dad to your kids? What's important to you? Everything has consequences, dude. And you can ignore reality, but you can't ignore the consequences of ignoring reality. I'm at the lowest point in my life. I want to divorce my wife again. I feel this is not healthy being in this marriage. And I want to end it, but I'm worried my parents will be upset. Please guide me, coach. Tell me what I should do. Well, I mean, quite frankly, you kind of already know what you should do. You've tried it. You've tried making your parents happy for what, the better part of 12, 15 years now? I mean, what has it done to you? What's it cost you? Are you satisfied with that? So, I mean, based on what you shared, I mean, what made you happy was being with this girl. Now, it might be beyond repair at this point, but if you're not happy with your wife and you know you don't want to stay with her, it's selfish and it's weak to stay in that marriage. It's not fair to your wife, it's not fair to your kids, it's not fair to you. And it's not fair to your parents and the rest of your family to live a lie. Maybe you are the guy who's brave enough and courageous enough to finally break this pattern in your family where, Mom, Dad, I love you guys, but I'm not going to be fucking miserable. And if that pisses you off, well, that's your fucking problem. If you're not going to accept my choices in my personal life, that's fine. But obviously, I'm going to have to moderate the amount of time that I spend with you because I love you because you're my parents, but I'm not interested in being miserable. And having a relationship with you guys shouldn't mean that every time I get around you, you're trying to make me feel guilty. I want you to be happy for me. If you don't have something positive to say, then you need to keep those opinions to yourself. I mean, you got to set some healthy boundaries in your life and let your parents know that you're an adult now, you're a 43-year-old fucking man, and you're going to make your own decisions that are going to make you happy and that are going to be in the best interest of your children. That's what fucking matters. And at the end of the day, all you can really do with this other girl is say, hey, if you decide to leave your wife and you leave her, say, I'm leaving her. This was a mistake. I'm sorry I hurt you. Sorry I went back to my wife. I listened to my parents. That was weak. I shouldn't have done it. But I'd like the chance to see you again and rekindle what we had. And if you don't want to, that's fine. Call me if you change your mind. But other than that, if you don't want to get back together, if you don't want to date, if you don't want to see where it goes romantically, then I'm going to find somebody else. Because I have this great book, How to Be a 3% Man. And you got to learn the fundamentals that are in here, dude. You didn't say much about reading the book. It sounds like you're just kind of cherry picking videos. And that's just not going to give you sustainable success. Because the things that you're doing, not only with your wife, but what you've done with your girlfriend, you're doing a lot of unattractive things. And that's a big part of your problem is displaying unattractive behavior that leads to rejection. So read the book 10 to 15 times, apply it. I would also study the 7 Principles to Get an Ex-Back article and the video that goes along with it, which is on my website, understandingrelationships.com. All you got to do is Google Corey Wayne, 7 Principles to Get an Ex-Back. It'll come up. And if you're still struggling and you're in a situation similar to what this guy is into and you'd like to get my help personally, you can go to my website, click the products tab at the top of your screen, and book a coaching session with yours truly. Life is just too fucking short to try and live it according to the expectations of another. I mean, you can see prime example. This guy has made himself miserable on 2 occasions with the same person, going completely against his gut because he's trying to please his parents. And all he did was make himself miserable. And that's a tragedy. But hopefully, I mean, he did it once. Hopefully, he'll be strong enough to do what's right for him. So until next time, I will talk to you soon.